When you think Lamborghini, you think raging bulls, screaming V12, and posters on bedroom walls. But not every Lambo deserves a poster. Some deserve to be hidden in the back of the garage with a tarp thrown over them. From ugly styling to engines that couldn't outrun family sedans, these are the 11 worst Lamborghinis ever made. And trust me, some of these will make you question if the designers were even sober. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and let me know in the comments what other brands' worst list you'd like me to cover next. BMW, Porsche, maybe even Bugatti, you tell me. Now, don't get me wrong, even the worst Lamborghini will still turn heads at a gas station, but compared to legends like the Countach, Diablo, and Aventador SVJ, these 8 stand out for all the wrong reasons. Weird styling, poor reliability, bizarre brand experiments, and in some cases, just being boring. And boring is the last thing you ever want from a Lamborghini. 11th, Lamborghini Estoque, concept 2008. If you thought Lamborghini was all about low-wide supercars with scissor doors and screaming V12, 2008 must have been a confusing year. That's when Lamborghini rolled out the Estoque, a 4-door sedan with a front-mounted V10. Yes, you heard that right. Lamborghini decided it wanted to build something you could pick up the kids from school in. The styling itself wasn't awful. In fact, from some angles, the Estoque looked mean, with sharp fighter jet-style edges and that signature aggressive stance. But the problem was simple. It wasn't a Lamborghini in spirit. Lamborghini is supposed to be wild, impractical, and extreme. The Estoque? It looked like Lamborghini was trying to copy Porsche's Panamera or Maserati's Quattroporte, and fans weren't buying it. Then came the timing. Lamborghini revealed the Estoque just as the global financial crisis hit. Super sedans were the last thing people wanted when banks were collapsing. Even wealthy customers weren't excited about a Lamborghini with back doors. The car was quietly shelved, and Lamborghini went back to building what it did best: poster cars, not family haulers. To this day, the Estoque is remembered as the Lamborghini that never should have been. Some fans still argue it was ahead of its time. After all, Porsche made a fortune with the Panamera, and Ferrari eventually launched the 4-seat GTC4 Lusso. But for Lamborghini, a 4-door sedan felt like a betrayal of its DNA. If you ask purists, the Estoque is the Lamborghini equivalent of a rock band selling out and making a pop album. Technically fine, maybe even profitable, but not what anyone signed up for. 10. Lamborghini Murciélago, early models 2001 to 2006. Now, here's the thing, the Murciélago is loved today. The later LP640, LP670SV, and Roadster versions are icons. But the early cars, they were a nightmare actually to own. The biggest culprit was the E-gear single clutch transmission. On paper, it was supposed to be a high-tech paddle shift system for faster shifts. In practice, it was jerky, clunky, and chewed through clutches like candy. Replacement clutches cost tens of thousands, and some owners were replacing them every 10,000 miles. That's like changing tires, except it costs as much as a small hatchback. Then there was the hydraulic suspension, which was prone to failure. Add brake sensor issues, electrical gremlins, and fragile cooling systems, and you had a car that loved being in the shop almost as much as it loved screaming down highways. And don't forget the interior. Visibility was laughable. The cabin was cramped, and the plastics felt cheap in places. For a car costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, that didn't sit well. Throw in terrible fuel economy and insane maintenance costs, and early Murciélago owners often felt more stressed than satisfied. Over time, Lamborghini ironed out the issues, and today the Murciélago is remembered fondly as the last true V12 Lamborghini before Audi refined everything. But those early years, they left a scar on Lamborghini's reputation, showing that beauty and performance don't always make up for constant headaches. 9. Lamborghini Gallardo, early models 2003 to 2008. The Gallardo went on to become Lamborghini's best-selling model ever, saving the company financially. But when it first launched, it wasn't smooth sailing. Early Gallardo suffered from a laundry list of problems. The E-gear transmission, again, a single-clutch semi-auto, was jerky in traffic, shifted like it was angry at you, and wore out clutches way too fast. Clutch replacements weren't cheap either, often running into 5 figures. Then there were the the electrical issues. Owners reported random warning lights, dead batteries, and glitches with sensors. Some cars developed oil leaks. Others had corroded grounding bolts that caused all kinds of mysterious behavior. It was the kind of car where you prayed nothing lit up on the dashboard when you pressed the start button. Performance was there, a 5.0-liter V10 making around 500 horsepower, but reliability worries scared off buyers. Ferrari's F430 felt sharper, and Porsche's 911 Turbo felt bulletproof by comparison. The Gallardo was supposed to be the accessible Lamborghini, but instead it became known as the Lamborghini that could ruin your bank account if you weren't careful. To Lamborghini's credit, they fixed most of these issues in later years. The refreshed Gallardos became reliable, respected, and beloved, but those first-gen cars taught buyers a harsh lesson. Just because it's a Lamborghini doesn't mean it won't throw tantrums like one. 8. Lamborghini Jalpa, 1981 to 1988. The Jalpa was supposed to be Lamborghini's entry-level car, a more approachable supercar with a V8 instead of the usual monstrous V12. And right there is the first problem. Nobody buys a Lamborghini because it's approachable. On paper, it had some decent numbers. A 3.5-liter V8 making around 255 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, and a Targa top. But in the 1980s, when Ferrari was pumping out the 308 and Porsche was crushing sales with the 911, the Jalpa felt uninspired. The design didn't help. It had clunky lines, big black plastic bumpers, and side skirts that looked like they were ordered out of a discount catalog. Instead of the sharp aggression we expect from Lamborghini, the Jalpa looked like someone tried to draw a Countach from memory and ran out of paper. Even Lamborghini fans weren't convinced. Sales were weak, and today it's remembered as the car that diluted Lamborghini's exotic image. It wasn't fast enough to excite supercar buyers, and it wasn't pretty enough to win over collectors. In the end, the Jalpa is the car everyone forgets existed, which is about the worst fate for a Lamborghini. 7. Lamborghini LM002, 1986 to 1992. Before the Urus became Lamborghini's cash-printing SUV, there was the LM002. Nicknamed the Rambo Lambo, it was basically a military truck with leather seats. And for some reason, Lamborghini thought people would want to daily drive it. This thing weighed over 3 tons, guzzled gas like a private jet, and had the turning circle of a battleship. Sure, it had a Countach 512 under the hood, but the poor engine had to drag so much weight that it barely felt fast. The ride quality? Rough. The looks? Boxy, awkward, and about as elegant as a shipping container, and don't even get started on maintenance. Just replacing the LM002's massive Pirelli tires costs as much as a used sports car. They built around 300 of them, which means it's rare today, but rare doesn't always mean good. The LM002 was a commercial flop, and while collectors now see it as a curiosity, at the time, it was just weird. Lamborghini tried to build a Humvee for billionaires, but all they got was a punchline. 6. Lamborghini Jarama, 1970 to 1976. The Jarama is one of those cars that looks like it belongs in the background of an old detective TV show, not in Lamborghini's Hall of Fame. It was supposed to be a comfortable grand tourer, but the proportions were clunky, the lines were bland, and worst of all, even Ferruccio Lamborghini himself didn't like it. And when the founder hates his own car, you know something went wrong. Under the hood was a 3.9-liter V12 with around 350 horsepower, which sounds good, but the car was heavy, sluggish, and not nearly as exciting to drive as its stablemates. Buyers weren't impressed either. The Jarama never captured the magic of the Mura or the Countach. Instead, it sits in history as the car that nobody remembers, except when they make lists like this. It's not the ugliest Lamborghini ever, but it's definitely one of the most forgettable. 5. Lamborghini Silhouette, 1976 to 1979. If you've never heard of the Silhouette, don't worry, almost nobody has. Lamborghini only built 54 of them, which is about the clearest sign possible that people didn't want it. The Silhouette was a follow-up to the Urraco. We'll get to that disaster in a second, and it just didn't land. The design was awkward, with weird proportions, and a rear end that looked like it was melting. It was meant to be a more practical Targa top sports car, but instead it looked like a kit car knockoff. Performance wasn't terrible, a 3.0-liter V8 with 268 horsepower. But compared to what Ferrari and Porsche were offering in the late 70s, it was underwhelming. And when you're Lamborghini, underwhelming is unacceptable. Today, the Silhouette is mostly remembered as the stepping stone to the much more successful Jalpa. But on its own, it's a forgettable misstep that failed to deliver any of Lamborghini's trademark drama. 4. Lamborghini Urraco 1973 to 1979. The Urraco was Lamborghini's attempt at an affordable entry-level sports car. Spoiler alert, affordable Lamborghinis rarely work out. The Urraco had a stubby, awkward design that lacked the aggression of the Miura or Countach. The nose looked too short, the rear looked unfinished, and the whole car just felt bland. Power came from a small displacement V8 that was supposed to make the car cheaper to sell and easier to drive. But when buyers lined up expecting Lamborghini thrills, they got a car that felt more like a fancy Fiat. Performance lagged behind rivals, and the budget Lambo tag hurt the brand's exotic image. Sales were weak, enthusiasts shrugged, and history filed the Urraco under "why did they even bother?" 3. Lamborghini Veneno 2013. Now, let's skip to the modern era. The Veneno is proof that not every outrageous Lamborghini design is automatically cool. Built for the brand's 50th anniversary, the Veneno was supposed to be the ultimate hypercar. But instead of sleek aggression, Lamborghini delivered something that looked like a Hot Wheels car drawn by a 10-year-old. Over-the-top fins, awkward angles, vents everywhere. It was extreme, but not in a good way. Performance was wild in a 740 horsepower V12 and a 0 to 60 time under 3 seconds, but the price, over $4 million, and only 3 coupes were ever sold. Reviews were mixed. Some loved the insanity, others thought it looked like Lamborghini was parodying itself. Today, the Veneno is a collector's piece because of its rarity, but it will always be one of the most divisive designs in Lamborghini's history. Proof that different doesn't always mean better. 2. Lamborghini Revuelto 2025. The brand new Revuelto is Lamborghini's first plug-in hybrid supercar. On paper, it sounds amazing. A screaming V12 paired with 3 electric motors for nearly 1,000 horsepower. But here's the catch. It's still a Lamborghini, which means practicality is basically non-existent. The all-electric range? Around 4 miles. Yep, enough to drive to Starbucks and back if there's no traffic. Cargo space? Laughable. Maintenance? Eye-watering. Thanks to the added complexity of hybrid tech bolted onto an already expensive V12. Critics say the Revuelto is exciting on track but frustrating in real life. It's insanely fast, sure, but it doesn't nail the usability side of hybrids the way brands like McLaren or Ferrari have managed. At nearly $500,000, buyers expect perfection, not a car that makes you wonder if the future of Lamborghini is really ready. 1. Lamborghini Aventador 2011 to 2022 early models. Now, this might sting because the Aventador is one of the most iconic Lambos of the 2010s, but here's the truth. The early models were rough. The Aventador used an ISR single-clutch transmission that was supposed to be lightning fast. Instead, it was jerky, harsh, and ate through clutches like a kid eats Halloween candy. Driving it in the city felt more like wrestling than cruising. Then there were the reliability issues, hydraulic suspension failures, cooling problems, brake sensor malfunctions, and electrical gremlins galore. And when something broke, the repair bill could hit 6 figures. The interior didn't help, with poor visibility, cramped seating, cheap plastics in places you didn't expect. Combine that with brutal fuel economy and constant battery drain if you didn't keep it plugged into a tender, and ownership became a headache. Sure, later Aventador SV and SVJ models fixed many issues and became icons, but those first cars, they reminded everyone that buying a flagship Lamborghini often means also buying a second car and just to get to work. And there you have it. Lamborghini is a brand built on drama, excess, and insane design, but drama cuts both ways. When they nail it, you get poster cars like the Miura, Diablo, and Huracan STO. When do they miss? You get the Jalpa, the Urraco, and an SUV that looked like a military surplus truck. These 8 models show that even Lamborghini, a company famous for outrageous brilliance, can stumble. Sometimes it's bad styling, sometimes it's reliability nightmares, and sometimes it's just trying too hard to be something they're not. But here's the funny thing, even the worst Lamborghinis are still unforgettable. Love them or hate them, they keep people talking. If you enjoyed this list, hit that like button, drop a comment to share your thoughts, and let me know what other brands' worst cars you want me to cover next. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next video.